Today, music is more accessible now than it has ever been before. Here on my smartphone, laptop, or even TV, I have access to almost every song that has ever been released right at my fingertips. People 50 years ago couldn't fathom ever hearing this much music in a lifetime. So why does it feel like music matters less now? It's not because music is getting worse, and it's not because artists care less. And don't get me started on the "there's no good music anymore" argument, because it's completely incorrect. It's because music today is something we consume rather than something that we experience. And this has led me to pose the following question: can there be such a thing as listening to too much music? Hi, my name is JP the Music Enjoyer, and this is a question I've been having for a while now, and I wanted to explore it from an economic, philosophical, and psychological lens. Imagine for a minute living in the late 1800s. You don't hear music while driving, since obviously you don't have a car, at best a carriage if you're very lucky, and you don't hear music while studying or working. Music only exists in a live setting, at the symphony, the opera, or maybe your local tavern. To be present in that moment is a privilege. You couldn't record the show on your phone like you can today. Once the performance is finished, it's over forever, remaining only as a memory to cherish for the rest of your life. However, that changed in the late 1870s when a little-known inventor by the name of Thomas Edison created the phonograph, the first ever piece of technology that could record music to be played back and re-experienced. However, the phonograph was limited in its reach. Not only was it a luxury item that few could afford, but each wax cylinder, which the music was recorded on, could only store a maximum of 2 to 4 minutes worth of music. But with each new invention, from the vinyl to the 8-track, cassettes, CDs, MP3s, and file sharing, and eventually what we have today with Spotify and all the other streaming services, music has become both more accessible and more portable, to the point where there are no more barriers to entry. And in general, I think that's a great thing. I don't think music needs to be gatekept or hidden, but I fear that it has led to music becoming less valuable. Let's say that a brand new pizza joint just opened up near you, and naturally you go there and it's incredible. And let's say that you enjoy it so much that over the next month you go there almost every day. Now, first off, that's ridiculously unhealthy and expensive, but more importantly to this video, the first maybe 5 times you have it, it's just as good as it was the first time. However, by the 10th, 20th, or 30th time having it, you eventually get sick of it. Nothing about the pizza is any different, yet your enjoyment of it is a lot less than it was the first time around. An economic theory known as the law of diminishing marginal utility explains this feeling perfectly. Diminishing marginal utility is when an individual receives less satisfaction with each additional unit consumed. In many ways, this theory can be seen as the opposite of scarcity. Whereas scarcity explains why rare things feel more valuable, the law of diminishing marginal utility could explain why the overabundance of something spoils its enjoyment over time. Now, can you see where our music listening habits fall into this equation? That new Sabrina Carpenter song might sound good on the first listen, but after hearing it 100 times in the span of a week, you'll get sick of it pretty quickly. Music is all around us, even when we're not actively looking for it. It's at work, at the gym, on social media, at restaurants, waiting rooms, elevators, in the mall, on the radio. It has gotten to the point where silence has become genuinely uncomfortable. Like the pizza example, it's not that the music has changed, but our consuming habits have. Between the constant overstimulation, doom scrolling, second screen viewing, and our completely decimated dopamine levels, music has become yet another casualty of a much greater issue. And sometimes I feel as though I am part of the problem. I find myself struggling to sit down and listen to a full album, or watch a TV show or movie without checking my phone. And this leads into the next part of my argument. I'm starting this section off with another example. Say you won the lottery, $25 million. This is obviously a life-changing amount of money, so you pay off your debts, buy a new house and car, and travel the world. At first, your new life feels like such a treat, but after a few months, maybe years, you start to appreciate it a little less, since you've adjusted and gotten used to the lifestyle. At this point, your baseline happiness is higher than it was before, meaning that in order to get that next big dopamine high, your desires increase in order to reach the same level of happiness as you had before. This is called the hedonic treadmill, and it's essentially our way of how quickly we can return to a baseline level of happiness after a positive or negative life event. And like the law of diminishing marginal utility, this concept can certainly be applied to our listening habits. In fact, these two concepts go hand in hand in the conversation. Due to how easily accessible music is now, not only are we quicker to reach that state of boredom and content with listening to the same music, but we now have to consume more in order to get the same enjoyment out of music as we did prior. It's like the second an artist drops a new project, people are already begging for new music before they've even had time to properly digest the music that they just consumed. Of course, there's another side to this. You can argue that streaming services haven't devalued music at all. For all the downsides of streaming services, they've allowed niche artists to cultivate audiences they otherwise wouldn't have been able to reach had it not been for Spotify or Apple Music. They've allowed obscure recordings of the past to live on forever and given listeners the opportunity to discover them. And I don't want to dismiss that because, for the most part, I agree. I don't think the problem is the access to music. It's how we're listening to it. Is the solution to this problem sitting in silence? It might just be. Now, I'm not here to tell you to cancel all of your streaming subscriptions and throw your headphones out. The problem is not music. It's just that we've forgotten how to give it our undivided attention. And I think that starts by taking a step back and learning to appreciate silence. The following excerpt is from the academic paper Waiting, Thinking, and Feeling, Variations in the Perception of Time During Silence by Dr. Eric Pfeiffer and research fellow Mark Whitman. Silence was judged to significantly increase relaxation, improve mood states, and alter the perception of time and the orientation toward the present moment. We controlled for influences of trait variables such as impulsivity, mindfulness, daydreaming, and time perspective. Findings empirically demonstrate that exposure to silence can be effective in therapeutic and educational contexts to promote relaxation and well-being. Other papers that I researched showed similar findings, with the benefit of silence being lower blood pressure, improved concentration and focus, calmed the racing thoughts, stimulated brain growth, reduced cortisol, stimulated creativity, improved insomnia, and encouraged mindfulness. I know that it may be tempting to listen to music on your morning commute to work or school, or when taking your dog on a walk, but maybe you can use that time to enjoy the silence, to really live in the present moment. And this is something that I've been trying to implement into my daily routine more. When I take my dog on his daily walks, I'm really making a conscious effort to not put on my headphones. And I have to say, even just having that quick 10-minute reset feels so good and refreshing. Learning how to be comfortable with silence is important, but I think it's also equally as important to learn how to consume music better when we do choose to listen to it. I've been making a conscious effort to listen with more intentionality. What I mean by this is that I close my eyes, put on my headphones, and just listen with no distractions or scrolling. I've also really enjoyed writing down my thoughts on the music I'm hearing. Things like, what stood out to me? What didn't I enjoy? And does this song remind me of another artist I enjoy? It doesn't have to be an essay. It could be 2 to 3 sentences, but at least I'm engaging with the music in a way that's not just surface level. Me and my mom have actually been doing this weekly activity that we like to call Music Mondays. Each of us pick 5 songs each, or maybe an album, and we just listen to it. Usually we pick songs or albums that we have a history with, and we talk about how the songs make us feel and what they mean to us. I love hearing the stories that my mom tells me about the memories attached to the track, how she interprets the lyrics, and honestly, it really puts into perspective the value of music. Music is such a unique art form in which listening to a certain song can bring back a flood of memories and emotions attached to a certain point in your life. And I look forward to Mondays now and getting to share these pieces of myself with my mom and vice versa. And I encourage all of you to do the same with your friends or family. It's brought back a level of excitement and wonder and passion for music that sometimes I forget is there. In the age of streaming, where the entire history of music is at your fingertips, and music can be listened to anywhere at any time, it can feel overwhelming. Sure, having access to all this music is quite the luxury, but what's more important is our ability to give a single song or album our undivided attention. Music is a universal language that connects all of humanity, and it was never meant to compete for our attention. It was meant to move us. It may seem paradoxical, but perhaps the best way that we can give music the appreciation it deserves is to listen to it less. If you're still here, I just want to thank you very much for sticking with me until the end. I'm trying to get on a more consistent posting schedule with at least 3 videos a month, with posting shorts as well every day. I'm already writing my next video, which is in defense of modern music. So if you're an enjoyer of music like I am, consider subscribing and keeping up to date on all of my latest videos. Thank you so much for watching. My name is JP the Music Enjoyer, and I will see you in the next video.